Good morning, dear students. Hope you all are doing well at home. And yesterday, I gave you an overview of the poem A Photograph. A photograph written by Shirley Tolson. Yesterday, we came to know about the author. Shirley Tolson was born in 1924 in England. She was writer, editor of magazines, and she came under the influence of Celtic Christianity. I told you what is Celtic Christianity? It is, it refers to broadly to certain features of Christianity that were common during the early Middle Ages. Then we came to know about the main idea. I hope you all must have gone through with these slides, right? And I told you that this poem describes three stages. Can you name them? The first stage, the photograph shows the poet's mother standing at the beach, enjoying a holiday with her two cousins. She was 12 or so at the time. So the first stage shows the time of the childhood. The second stage takes us 20 or 30 years later. The mother would laugh at the way she and her cousins, Betty and Dolly, were dressed up for the occasion. And what was the occasion? Those were on the sea holiday. Then, in the third stage, the poet remembers her mother with a heavy heart. Why? Because the mother is no more now. Right? So, the photograph revives nostalgic feelings in the poet. So, now let's talk about line wise or extract wise explanation. Let's start from the first. The cardboard shows me how it was when the two girl cousins went paddling, each one holding one of my mother's hands, and she, the big girl, some 12 years or so. So, cardboard. What does this cardboard signifies? Cardboard is a piece of thick paper board, right, on which we fix up the photographs. As I told you, if you have ever seen the albums of your mother or the grandparents, then you must have seen it that the pictures are pasted on some hard and stiff paperboard. All right, so the cardboard is this, and then here we have paddling, right? Paddling means walking or standing with bare feet in shallow water, right? When we go to the sea beach, we try to, walk in the water barefooted. So that is so. Each one holding one of my mother's hands, and she, the big girl, some 12 years or so. So here, the poet or the poetess looks at the cardboard frame of an old photograph. The photograph showed two girl cousins who were holding the hand of the poet's mother. Why? Because they were in the childhood, and everyone has some fear of losing each other. So they were holding the hand of the poet's mother on the either sides, because she was the elder one, right? So they had gone for a sea bath. Out of these three, his mother was the biggest or the eldest girl. That's why they were holding the hands of mother. And she, the big girl, she was the biggest, or you can say the eldest girl, some 12 years or so. What was the age of that girl or the mother? 12 years or so, right? So all of them were standing at the beach. They stood silently over there, holding the hands of the mother. I hope it's clear. Now, all three stood still to smile through their hair. Right? Smile through their hair. What does this mean? Means their smiling faces could be seen through their hair that flew over them. When we stand at the sea beach, there must be some air, right? So the hair scatter on our faces, right? So they were smiling, means they were making some pauses, and the things will make the next line will make it clear why they were smiling at the uncle with the camera, because the uncle was holding the camera and they were making faces, as we all do when we click the photographs, right? A sweet face, my mother's. That was before I was born. So, here in this line, she is mentioning it very much clear that she was not born at that time. And the sea, which appears to have changed less, right? That has nature is inevitable, it is eternal, it is immortal, unchangeable. As I told you yesterday also, if you ever had gone to some coastal area, so you must have seen that you are changing, we are changing, but the nature is not changed, right? So the sea, which appears to have changed less, washed their terribly transient feet. Yesterday also I have told you this phrase in detail. Terribly means, here we will take it as great, the बहुत ज़्यादा, right? Transient means momentary, or you can say mortal feet. When we stand at the coastal area, so the sea waves comes and goes, right? And we stand over there in the shallow water. So through the sea waves, our feet get sometimes cleaned, and sometimes the sand comes over there. So the sea waves were washing their momentary or the mortal feet. Here, how let's start it. All three stood still to smile through their hair. So these three, all of them were standing at the beach. They stood silently, smiling through their hair and watching at the uncle with the camera, who was standing over there. Uncle was standing over there to click the photograph, right? So they were smiling and giving some pauses. My mother's, that was before I was born, right? So that was the time when the poet was not even born. It was the time, means the poet was looking at the photograph and she was not present in that photograph, right? And the mother was explaining to her that how they were looking in that photograph, and she was standing in the center, and on the either sides two cousins were standing, and they were on the sea holiday. So that was the time when the poet was not even born. At that time, her mother's face was very sweet, a sweet face, right? So, mother's face was very sweet and attractive. My mother's, that was before I was born, and the sea, which appears to have changed less, right? So, the mortal face of the mother seems to have changed a lot with the passage of time, right? But the sea has not changed much. As I told you, it is immortal. The poet's mother and the two girl cousins stood there. They were standing over there, and the sea was washing their mortal feet. Right? So it was the time when they were standing over there, and here this phrase tells a deeper meaning, terribly transient feat, that we people are mortal, but the nature is immortal, right? So it can be a transferred epithet. Have you ever had come to know about this figure of speech? This figure of speech means transferred epithet, right? It can be known as hypology also. Hypology means exchange of thought. Here, terribly transient feat, that is taking up, it is an appropriate adjective to one noun and which is attached to another by association. We can take it to the nature. Terribly transient feat, we had taken it to the human beings, right? Ourselves, we are mortal, and on the other hand, it is telling up momentary. Transient, as I told you, means momentary. Okay, so momentary or the mortal one, and it is associated with the other meaning, it is exchanged. All right, so here we can take it as the transferred epithet also. So next is, some 20, 30 years later, she would laugh at the snapshot. See, Betty and Dolly, she would say, and look how they dressed us for the beach. The sea holiday was her past, mine is her laughter. Both wry with the labor ease of loss. So, in the first line, I think every word is clear to you, right? She would laugh at the snapshot. Snapshot means the photograph, right? Batty and Dolly, these are the two girl cousins of the mother, right? These are two girl, cousins of the mother, and these are just kind of name, right? So, Rai means disappointed with disappointed with the ironical situation, right? Mark it down. Wry, WRY, at the end it is there, right? It means disappointed with the ironical situation. Labored means achieved after a lot of hard work. Ease means comfort. I think every word is clear to you. Now let's take up the explanation. So, some 20, 30 years later, she would laugh at the snapshot. So, 20 or 30 years had passed, right? Since that photograph had been taken. Now, whenever the mother looked at this photograph, she would laugh. She would laugh at the photograph. After some 20, 30 years later, she had taken up that photograph again and she was laughing by gazing at that photograph again and again. Right? See Batty and Dolly. She pointed towards Dolly and Batty, the cousins, right? And she would say, and look how they dressed us for the beach. And she said how they were dressed up by their parents for this sea holiday. If you have gone to some coastal area or some hill station, so you must have seen that they have their traditional, dresses, and the photographers always come to us to get the photograph clicked in those attires means clothes, right? So the parents have dressed them up for this sea holiday. And she said, and after some time, when we look at that photograph again, then we laugh while we look at that how they were dressed up at that time, right? So the sea holiday was her past. Look here now, the sea holiday was her past means the time had gone. After some 20 or 30 years she was watching that photograph again na. So it means her childhood period or that sea holiday time that had gone, and it is the past for her. And mine is her laughter, right? That sweet laughter of the mother which the photograph had captured had become the poet's own past also, right? Both of them, the laughter had gone, the poet's time, right? That sea holiday had become a thing of the past for the mother, and that sweet laughter of the mother which the photograph had captured had become the poet's own past. Somehow it is mentioning that the mother is no more with her now, or in the later next lines it must be clear to you, right? But here we will say that the time had gone, right? So mother's childhood period when she was laughing, and the laughter in that photograph, because the poet was not present in that photograph, so for her that is the past. Okay. But both Rai, I had told you, disappointed. Both were disappointed at this time. But they had, with the labored ease of loss, both of them suffered from a sense of loss. Right? Both have suffered from a sense of loss. But ironically, both of them were laboring to ease the loss, to comfort the loss. you know Everyone must have met with some disappointments or mishappenings, but it is not so that we stop our life with those mishappenings. We have to move on, because change is the part and parcel of our life. So we have to move on. We can't stop with those mishappenings. All right. So same way here, the poet says both are suffering from a sense of loss, but they had taken it with the comfortability, or they are making them comfort by accepting it, right? Because that period can't come back to the author or to the mother. That's why they have to take it in a healthy manner, right? Is it clear? Okay, let's start with the next one. Now she has been dead nearly as many years as that girl lived. And of this circumstance means situation or condition, there is nothing to say at all. Its silence silences. The poet says that her mother has been dead for so many years, right? Means the poet is taking up that photograph after after the death of her mother. She's looking that photograph again. Means once she was looking that photograph when you know um, the photograph was clicked after that 20 or 30 years later they were watching that photograph. The mother was laughing and uh, telling it to all of them that how they went for the sea holiday. And after mother's death, she was looking that photograph again. That's why I said the clicking of the photograph in the mobile phones and then delete them, and click again and again. That gives us a kind of joy. But these pasted photograph, we can revive our memories again and again by looking at them. uh, some days back I was also watching my old memories and through them, right? So now it's a sad moment when the poet was watching that photograph, right? And the poet says that her mother had has been dead for years. She has been dead nearly as many years as she had lived. As many years she had lived means, as she was looking in that photograph, for how many years? It has been told, if we come back to what, first stanza, she was, each one holding, yes, this last line, and she the big girl, some 12 years or so, right? So it makes clear that some after some 12 years or so she was looking at that photograph again. As many years as that girl lived means, as she was looking in that photograph means, it was 12 years or so. She has been dead for as many years as the number of the years she lived in that photograph, right? She has, now there is nothing to say at all. The poet has nothing to say about the circumstances, about the situation of her death, or about the situation captured in that photograph. It silences. Silence only brings out deeper silence and makes things mysterious. Because when we look at the photograph after some mishappening, so we become silent, and that's the critical situation, or that mysterious situation had come on the poet, and she is becoming silent. Okay, so here one more literary device is here, that is silence silences. The word has been repeated, so it is repetition. Yes. So repetition has been used over here. Okay, I think I have explained you each and every phrase. Go through with it, and then I'll be sending you certain extract based questions, right? And the NCRT questions. So you would be doing it. I hope the things are clear, right? So here I have mentioned some things for you. The poet realizes that she has lost her mother, and so that labored ease of loss sets in. Labored ease of loss because it is difficult for her to forget her mother and put behind her past and move on, right? But she has taken it with comfortability. As I told you, we can't stop our life with the mishappenings. We have to move on because change is the part and parcel of life. We have to accept it. It is ease because the pain of the loss is reduced with time. No doubt, time is a great healer, right? So it will be reduced with time. Time acts as a healer, and the daughter moves on. So even though she hasn't really forgotten her mother, but then she is not even in as great a pain now. 12 years after her mother's death, and she was when her mother died. It's all about the poem which I told you yesterday. Go through with it. I think the poem is clear to you. Thank you and have a nice day.